So every year we've done this podcast, we always like in mid-season break down our top five at each position, and it's fun to look back on as the process gets going. We're going to start that tonight with the quarterbacks in the 2024 class, but I want to do it a little different this year, Shane. So I propose to you, we can rank our top five quarterbacks as we have them right now. But those five quarterbacks may not enter the NFL draft. There's a lot of with NIL and the portal and the COVID year still hanging around. These guys can stay in school longer now, so it feels like we have to kind of rethink how we're looking at players and who will actually enter the 2024 NFL draft class. So that's how we're going to look at it. We're going to look at the top five quarterbacks in the 24 class that we expect to actually enter the draft. Number one is easy. It's Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, despite what his father may have said weeks ago, Caleb Williams is going to enter the draft. Caleb Williams is going to be the number one pick in the draft. And according to math nerds out there, a 57% chance he's quarterbacking the Chicago Bears next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's my number one as well, pretty by a mile. My number one prospect in this class pretty easily. I don't think that's going to change. He's just been exceptional since he took the field when Spencer Rattler got benched at Oklahoma. And it's only gone up from here. So I think the only thing about Caleb Williams is people look at him and think, oh, this is a guy that can run. And he doesn't that much. There might be a CJ Stroud kind of situation where he can and they don't ask him to. We've seen a couple games where Caleb Williams kind of busted that out and been very dangerous. But he doesn't necessarily use that tool a lot in college football. So that's something that's a note to have. But he has the arm talent. He has the mental fortitude, smart player. I think Caleb Williams is going to be the number one overall pick for sure.
Yeah. His ability to make plays on the run and off script, which you have to do in today's NFL, are unbelievable. Number two for me, and I'm assuming number two for you as well, is Drake May from North Carolina.
It is.
Drake May he's a very good quarterback prospect. He's got the arm. He also is a very athletic guy, although I don't think he gets credit for it, that, the way he makes plays. He can also make plays off script, but everything he does is dialed back a little bit from what Caleb Williams does. They're very similar in the way they make plays to me, but Williams does it at such a higher level than Drake May does. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Drake May. That just shows you how much better I think Caleb Williams is. I think Drake May is going to go in the top 10, maybe even probably the top 5. I imagine, depending on how the order shakes out.
I think it's been interesting because we came into the year with Caleb Williams, Drake May, the top 2 for sure. Top 10 picks, top 5 picks. I don't think Drake May's played as well as expected. I don't think he's played like a top 5 pick. Now he has the physical tools and the makeup. He's 6'4", 230, can run extremely fast. He's very athletic. He's had bad halves. He's had bad games. Like the game against Pitt had a half that wasn't very good, and then a half that was like a highlight reel. He's just not. I don't feel comfortable saying like Drake May's, man, this isn't, what Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields was for me, where I thought, hey, both these guys are really good. Last year was CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, my number 2, number 3 players in the draft. I don't think that's what this is going to be. I think I'll have Drake May maybe lower than he goes in the draft on my big board. I'm 5th right now, and it feels like someone's going to move up to 2 to take him because after this, there's a big chasm to me in these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I have him as 10th on my board right now. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to go in the top 5. But, because like you said, there's a large drop-off from 2 to 3. So, that brings us to 3. Now, I'm curious who yours are. And this is hard for me to say. Bo Nix is my number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
Draft class. And anybody who has listened to this show more than twice has heard my disdain for Bo Nix as a quarterback prospect, but he is so much better than he was at Auburn now. I can finally say that. He's got a great arm. He definitely can move in the pocket. He moves. I mean, he still has the occasional bonehead play, but it's not near to the level it was early on in his career at Oregon or in his years at Auburn. So Bo Nix currently number 3 for me. I think he ends up in the first round, maybe in the teens, maybe in the 20 range. I don't know, but I think Bo Nix is the third quarterback taken in this class, and I think bold prediction here on October 4th, 2023, there are only 3 quarterbacks that go in the first round. Bo Nix is the third.
It's interesting. Bo Nix is not my number 3 quarterback. I made a change this week, and Quinn Ewers, the quarterback of Texas, is my number 3 quarterback. I think he has played well enough to take that spot. And I can tell we'll talk Bo Nix and my thoughts on him in a bit. But I think Quinn Ewers, kind of was coy about him when we talked about him before. I mean, 10 touchdowns to 1 pick in that Kansas game was already, it was already kind of out of hand. He absolutely dominated Alabama. Honestly, 2 years in a row. I mean, last year, if he would have gotten hurt, I think we would have been talking about him in this way as the number 3 and a much closer player to that number 2 spot. Now, Alabama is really the only defense that he's played. Probably is the only real defense he's going to play all year. I think that's a question mark. But he's young. He has the athletic tools. He can move around in the pocket. When you talk about throwing off platform, he has that. He's run for 5 touchdowns this year. Like, Quinn Ewers has that full package, and he's finally putting it together. I think if he keeps playing like this, I think he's a near lock for the first round and comes out, just because of the athletic tools and the youth compared to a Bo Nix, who's been in college for what feels like 20 years.
But technically only 5. So,
technically only 5, right.
So you feel that Quinn Ewers will enter this draft class?
I do. I think he does if he keeps playing like this. Like, if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I said, I don't know. I think another problem is this is his last year as a starter at Texas, right? I have to imagine Texas has made a commitment to Arch Manning to start in year 2. So Quinn Ewers, if you're going to stay, you got to transfer again, which creates its own issues. I think he's got to go.
I mean, that is the dream scenario for Texas, right? Is Quinn Ewers takes them to the playoff, rides off into the sunset to the NFL. Arch Manning takes over, right? That was the dream process that they thought of when Arch Manning committed. So Quinn Ewers is, by the way, not ranked on my quarterback board or not in my top 100. I haven't watched him yet, so I can't commit to him yet. So once I get a Texas game in me, I can put Quinn Ewers on my board and probably we'll see. Very high on my board. We'll see. Number 4 for me is the guy who is just lighting up college football probably more than any other Power 5 quarterback this year. I have a couple of issues with him, but like I said, based off the rest of the class and who I think will declare, I go with Michael Penix Jr. from Washington here, 6th-year player, which is a problem. Because of the age he'll enter the NFL. You don't use age as an issue with as much, especially with quarterbacks anymore. I know you've spoke of that, but Penix, he's got a great arm. He's very accurate with the football. The other things working against him, though, I mean, I guess people use it against Tua Tagovailoa and Bryce Young as well, basically saying, well, look what he's throwing to each and every week. If you're going to hold that against Tua, which I didn't, and Bryce Young, you have to hold that against Penix because he's got 3 potential top 100 receivers on his roster currently. And he's also left-handed, and that bugs me. So, but those are my qualms with Penix. But like I said, I think he's a really talented player. I think he's going to have a solid process throughout. He's going to go to probably the Senior Bowl and have a good week down there and then continue, on throughout the rest of the process.
My number 4 is Bo Nix. I think it wasn't so much what he did that dropped him from 3 to 4 for me, but just what Quinn Ewers did to move him up. I mean, like you talked about, Bo Nix is so much better at Oregon than he ever was at Auburn, has some of the rushing ability, commands that offense well. He's going to fit certain schemes and systems. You want to plug him in a Shanahan system. I think Bo Nix can have the timing to be, what Brock Purdy's doing and be able to do that. So to me, that's worth a late first round pick. Maybe Will Levis is it, goes early second. The one thing that holds me back from Bo Nix is just he doesn't get pressured. He is the lowest pressured quarterback in the Power Five. Our friend Travis May was a guest on the show last year. Gave me these stats: 7.43% pressure rate for Bo Nix on 7% of his passes. The next lowest is Carson Beck at 15.9. The Power Five average is 30%. Like no one gets close to even pressuring Bo Nix. How is that going to work in the NFL? That's my one fear, and I think NFL teams might back away in the first round because they don't have that question answered.
Not to delve away from what we're talking about, but I'm curious what Spencer Rattler's pressure rate is.
I'll have to ask him.
Yeah, look that up and let me know after the show. So number 5 to me, and this comes back to what the base of the exercise was. Guys we expect to enter the draft. I would have probably had Shedeur Sanders here from Colorado, but I think he's staying in school. Same for Riley Leonard. I don't think he's going to declare for the draft this year either out of Duke. So that brings me to my number 5 quarterback that I think will enter the 2024 draft is Florida State's Jordan Travis. And he's a player that is another, like I said, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, is a great athlete. He doesn't always make the right throw. And he's also, but his weapons have increased around him to the point that he's able to take more chances with Keon Coleman out there and with Johnny Wilson and with Jaheim Bell. He's able to take more chances now. But I like Jordan Travis's skill set. I think he's got a lot of drive because he almost basically quit the game and then, or changed positions and then, but settled at quarterback, and he's gotten a lot better at it. So I like Jordan Travis here. He's another that I think will be a Senior Bowl quarterback come late January. And I think we'll see him, maybe have a chance to go in that early day 3 range.
I think that's fair. Jordan Travis doesn't feel like an NFL quarterback. There's definitely some passes you're like, oh, okay, like if he could do that every time, we could be talking about something.
Consistency is the issue here, I think.
Yeah.
From the skill set for Travis.
Yeah, but number 5's close for me. Like with you, I mean, there's 3 quarterbacks that contend for my number 5 spot. Shedeur Sanders from Colorado is one of them. I don't think he's definitely going back, right? Even if he balls out the rest of the season, I think he stays, tries to win something with his dad there. The other is J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. He's close. I still have some reservations. Maybe I should be getting on board. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But I think he goes back to school. So I'm going to go with Michael Penix here at 5. Because after that, I think it's just like even bigger chasm to the next quarterback after this top 5. Like you talked about Penix pretty well. He has the passing. He stayed healthy so far this season. If he stays healthy, then I'm much more in. My problem is he can't move worth a lick. Like it's not quite as bad as Carson Strong was, if you remember him as a prospect from Nevada who went undrafted, but it's not that much better. It's not that much better. I mean, he has those moments sometimes where he can scramble into a wide open space and pick up some yardage. But like Michael Penix just is not going to throw on the run. He's not going to evade pressure. And I just don't know how many NFL teams anymore that can work for. And that's my one fear with him, why I think he might be closer to day 3 than round 1.
There are some other quarterbacks, like I said, we've talked about that I think are going to be drafted, but I think they're all day 3 guys. I really want to see more from Tyler Van Dyke. I think if there's a quarterback that's below this tier that can work his way into this tier, I think Van Dyke is that guy.
Yeah, he's really interesting. Another guy that could go back to school. I think a lot of it depends if his offensive coordinator stays. That change has done wonders Yeah, he's my number 8 on my board after Penix, Sanders, and McCarthy.